Welcome to the Innovative Systems Podcast, Broadband Breakdown, where we dive into real-life challenges broadband leaders are facing and help them find solutions. This is your space for innovative ideas and expert solutions. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Broadband Breakdown. I'm Lindsay Randazzo, and I have with me here Scott Meyer. Scott,
Hey.
so tell me, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Lindsay?
Good, doing well. So talk to me about this study. I know that you've really been with Innovative and this study since inception. So just walk us through, how long has Innovative Systems been doing this? What's your pulse? And tell us more about it. Where did it come from?
Well, about 12 years ago, we had a conversation about data and how the behaviors of consumers relating to internet and video primarily came out of metropolitan markets, nothing really focused on rural. And so the gauntlet was laid down to me to find some way to get this data put together. And I mean, to make a long story short, 11 years later, we're into it, and it's just been a really fantastic piece of data that rural service providers have been using, and they're using it for planning. We have customers that actually give us testimonials on how much they appreciate the data. So pretty complimentary of our efforts for this.
Yeah, and getting into the psyche, the rural mindset of, consumers in rural America is so important when our customers are making decisions for their customers. So I think it's really nice that we can help support that. Did anything stick out to you, or maybe what stuck out to you most in this year's study?
Well, I think, and it's actually maybe not so much this year, but the last couple of years, what we're seeing is a pretty significant number of people, like almost a third, don't know what their speed is. And that's been a consistent number for the last 2 years. But what's more troubling is the number of people who are now utilizing wireless providers as their sole home internet service has been rising and rose quite significantly from last year to this year. And I think there's a correlation between the fact there are people that just don't know what their speed is. And all of a sudden you've got T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T coming in saying, well, we're going to give you home internet, fast 5G home internet, and we're going to do it for a significantly lower price than they may be getting it for now. And we're going to throw in a year's worth of YouTube TV. Well, for rural service providers, how do you compete with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's seeing the speed, not knowing their speed, not having any idea. And when so many of our customers are thinking about their messaging for their website and how they display their packaging and messaging, if they're only using speed as an indicator of a differentiator between packages, and the customer actually doesn't even know their speed or what they need, they might want to go back to the drawing board and really think about that. For me, I agree with you, and it was shocking to just see the percentage of people that are potentially interested in switching to, 5G or to Amazon Leo, I thought was shocking. And Leo overall, from all of the, demographics that we kind of broke our study down into, 43% overall said that they would consider home internet service from Amazon Leo, which I thought was a staggering number, and we've seen that rise since even last year. What are your thoughts on that, or how can rural BSPs combat their customers considering that move, that jump?
Well, the data is pretty strong. I mean, overall, 43% said they would consider home internet from Amazon Leo if it was comparable. And we've been banging this drum for a number of years, and we feel that, at least I know I personally feel that, I know some of our team feel the same way, is that Leo is probably a greater threat than Starlink because of Amazon Prime. We've got music, we've got the shipping, We've got Amazon Video. I mean, they're doing NBA, they're doing live sports. And some of our customers, BSPs, are very concerned, and they see, and I think it's a valid point, that Amazon wants to own the home.
Hmm.
And there's a concern of our providers, some of our providers, and I hope more of them take this on as we move forward into this situation, that they could end up being just a commoditized pipe and Amazon's going to provide the rest or provide it all. And so we're seeing that situation, and we don't know how they're going to bundle and roll out Amazon Leo at this point,
Hmm.
but we know it's going to be competitive and they're going to get customers because they have a huge database of millions of subscribers to their service, and they're going to market to it and they're going to bundle it.
Yes, agreed. Talk to us more about bundling. And, I think it's been proven year after year, this year was not unique, that customer satisfaction goes up if you have more than one service from your provider. So I believe, and I know you have the data in front of you. We printed out we have a great hard copy of our study this year, and I would encourage everyone to find us at a conference and get one, just because it's really nice to see the data kind of in the graphs in color. It's just really nice. But anyway, what are you finding with that?
Well, when you look at what we've done traditionally, we've done this for many years. We're using a 1 to 10 scale on
Hmm.
satisfaction, 1 being the least satisfied, 10 being the most satisfied. And overall BSP satisfaction for those who don't bundle internet with any other services is 7 out of 10, but their overall satisfaction rating jumps up to 7.7 if they're bundling such things as television, Wi-Fi, security, cybersecurity, those types of things. So really that does validate the additional data that we're showing of the interest in changing to like an Amazon Leo product. They're going to have bundled opportunities there. And again, the biggest concern is Amazon is on a mission to own the home, and we need to sound the alarm for our customers on that.
Yes, agreed. And I think that the advantage with bundling, great for the satisfaction, stickier customers as well. So if they're using you for internet and TV and, let's say, security cameras and cybersecurity service or app, you're so deeply embedded, it's going to be harder for them to leave and go to Amazon. So I think that that's really important. I thought that stuck out quite a bit to me. And I do think that the customers who are bundling and bundling well and reiterating their message, showcasing the value of that bundle, I think you need to repeat it over and over again, that, we're your source for your internet, for your phone, for your TV, for your cybersecurity, for your cameras. I just think that that's where BSP should be going now with this. So we did this we started last year, Scott, if you remember, our segmentation demographic profiles, which I really like, because while we're talking about the competition coming in, I think we know as marketers, it really doesn't work if you just batch and blast your messaging. You have to tailor it to your target audiences. And I think each demographic group wants something different, is finding you in maybe a different way, and your messaging should reflect that. So, walk us through maybe some of the demographic profiles that we've done this year, and then maybe any high level, what was unique to you, or what resonated with you about those breakdowns, maybe starting with our 18 to 34-year olds.
Sure, yeah, that's great, and I think that obviously there's some understood things about that particular demographic group as far as the marketing, social media is going to be the best way to reach this audience. And I don't think that's any news flash for anybody. But they're also interested in other things relating to leaving reviews. I mean, they're
Hmm.
more likely to leave a review, which obviously reviews can really drive interest, especially for new people coming into a market and they're checking out a BSP or a multitude of BSPs that are competing in a market. Whoever has the best reviews is probably going to get the best look, and that certainly is pertinent with those 18 to 34-year-olds. Obviously, another no real surprise is they're going to want the faster internet and are willing to spend more for that, as well as more of a likely candidate to subscribe to the over-the-top streaming services
Hmm.
such as Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. Um, so yeah, a little bit of a different mindset there with that demographic for sure.
Yeah, what was interesting to me too is that they're most likely to use AI tools or services in the home, so that it makes sense and we can think about that with our messaging. Obviously, they want, a package with the most bandwidth. They're streaming, they're doing video calls online for work, they're doing all of these things. So if we're thinking about this is the group that has, more devices than your 55 and up group, so let's maybe tailor the messaging surrounding that. Okay, what was our next group? The 35 to 54-year-olds, I believe. Did anything stick out for this group?
Well, I think just again back on the social, which it's almost like the younger demographics under 35 don't use Facebook as much, and it's
Hmm.
kind of like I think they have the perception Facebook is for grandma and grandpa and not for me kind of thing. And they're more into, the TikTok, Snapchat, those types of more short form type content platforms, and maybe Instagram to a certain degree. So it seems like, in fact, not just 35 to 54, but 55 plus also are more likely to use the Facebook platform. Um, that demographic is 35 to 54, interested in a free trial, a free taste test of your fastest internet, and we've talked about this for years. Uh, we certainly would like to see more of our BSP customers out there offering that free taste test. I presented on this at multitude of conferences, and people that have done this type of promotion have all reported back that a majority of the people that get the faster internet, they keep it and are willing to pay the higher price because now they can see how this is a better solution to fit their needs. And I think our biggest concern that we have, Lindsay, and we've talked about this in our presentations at conferences, is the CSRs should not be making the decisions on what they think is best for the customer. And I've talked to managers, I know you have, and there are still people and companies that are doing that. And you're not helping the company and you're not helping yourself as a BSP, because the first people that are going to be complaining are probably the people that don't have the kind of internet speeds that they need. And then that makes them vulnerable to churn.
Right. If it's not a good fit for what they're using, the devices they have, what they're hoping to accomplish with their service, then we're not helping them by saving money and maybe trying to get them into a more affordable package, is what you're saying. And I totally agree and I echo it. It's really hard, I do think, from the perspective of many CSRs, because I don't think when it's your community and when people are calling in, it's really hard to push them to a higher speed tier. It's hard. But I think if they really understand the value that they're selling, and when they see some of this data that the end goal is to have a happier customer and make sure that they have enough bandwidth, and also think about the opposite problem. What is it really costing you or your customer if your connection drops or isn't if it isn't reliable enough and you have too many devices on it? That's a bad experience, and then they're more likely to leave. So you haven't served the customer if you're not giving them the best path for success. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I agree with you. And we've heard a lot about that. I fall into this 35 to 50-year-old demographic, and we love us a free trial. I do a free trial for everything. So I don't know if
Hmm.
it's a conditional thing, but I like to try before I commit.
Hmm.
Whether it's on apps, whether it's online, whether it's, adding on another channel or something, I feel like I'm getting value, even if it's a 2-day free trial or a week. But if you can give somebody a 30-day free trial, they have enough time to really experience the difference. So I would encourage, anyone listening to just try it. And then
Absolutely.
they are more likely to leave a review, and the reviews matter. So I think that that's important to note. Okay, our next profile was 55 to 64-year olds, and talk to us about this demographic and kind of what they're looking for and what they're on and what they need.
Well, I think the most important thing, and our data has supported this, which is not real surprising, but these are the comfortable, financially settled demographics. And to a certain degree, some 65 plus are as well, but
Mhm.
especially 55 to 64. They're the ones that have the highest ARPU at a company. They're also the ones that are, if they don't, if they're 60 minutes late on paying their bill, they're upset. They're good customers. And so really this demographic needs your red carpet service. You need to support them. They pay their bills, they spend the most money, and really there's other things that are kind of interesting in that group. The marketing effort towards this group shifts away from social more to your traditional mediums. So if you're going to market to these folks, local broadcasts, radio, TV,
Mhm.
even email, bill inserts. These are all things that resonate with this age demographic. And then the other thing too that is, important to them when we talk about television services, and I do want to take some time later in our cast here to talk about television services as far as data.
Mhm.
But local TV programming is very important, not only to the 55 to 64s, but also to the 65 plus for a multitude of reasons, mostly the access to that local news, weather, sports, but then also the people in these two age demographics are more, I would want to say, politically active. And so they get a lot of their political news through like live TV programming.
Mhm.
60
Yes.
Minutes, Face the Nation, those types of things, which people under the age of 55, they don't probably even know what 60 Minutes is. They probably just think, well, that's just 60 minutes of time that I can spend scrolling through TikTok.
Right. No, exactly. And I do think that there's something to be said. I know that this demographic isn't as likely to leave reviews, but maybe we can help bridge that gap. And like you said, meet them at the platforms that they are, comfortable using. And I think that they would be willing to give a review if one, you make it very easy for them to do so, and make sure you're taking that off of social. They're not going to be as likely to give you a review on Facebook. But maybe like you said, if they resonate and if they actually open their bill, and bill inserts are a great way to communicate with them to let what's changing, to let them know what special offers they have. All of that is great in the bill insert. How about you try a bill insert or some sort of messaging in the bill, to ask for a review? And you could even ask for them to write it in. You could ask for them to call it in and you type it. I mean, there's different ways where you could get a positive review that aren't just scan this QR code. So I think, as marketers, we always think digital review, make it a link, make it a form, super easy to track for us. So selfishly, I love the digital channels for getting a review. But I really think if someone was going to try to get a review from this demographic group, they might have much more success if they change their channel. And I'd love to see if anybody tries this campaign or does some bill inserts. And I would love to hear how it goes. I wish I could try it now just to see. Well, that's all. This is all super interesting. I could talk about the demographic profiles by age because I really think if you're hyper focusing on each one with every ad that you're doing, with every channel that you're on, and making them so specific, I think that that's going to yield, much higher results, um, and more satisfactory results for your campaigns. So the last group, and this is a new group that we added, we had, I guess, a very broad spectrum. We only had 3 profiles last year, and our age cutoff, it didn't really make sense. So we have modified that this year. And now we do have a 65 and up demographic profile. Talk to us about why that was important, to really focus on maybe individuals that we know or can probably assume have retired or near retirement, as opposed to kind of lumping everyone in with 55 plus.
Well, I probably first and foremost, the number one reason is most of them are probably relying on some type of pension, Social Security, 401k retirement, those types of things. So they're counting the dollars a little bit more.
Hmm.
Uh, and, maybe just that, anxiety of, well, I don't have a job anymore, so I need to be cautious, even though most of them are probably going to be fine. Uh, so for them, uh, you know, they're going to be more susceptible to these home internet campaigns from Verizon, T-Mobile, and so that you need to be, and one, well, two reasons they're going to be more susceptible. One reason is obviously the cost, but the second reason is these aren't hardcore gamers. They're not pounding the bandwidth. They're more than likely people that are into a traditional cable television type product. So they're not streaming as much. So they can get by with a slower speed that maybe is promoted as a fast speed by Verizon, even though it's not. But by their standards, if it works and it saves them $20 a month, they're probably going to take it. So there's a vulnerability there, and that's why bundling is really important with this group, I believe, because they are more likely to see that value in a bundled internet cable television product. And I think that is the biggest thing that we need to think about regarding that demographic. And then the only other thing that I think is worth mentioning is a very large percentage of their online activity is banking.
Yes.
And we've talked about this and sounded the alarm at many conferences when we presented on this. These are also very vulnerable demographic to scams.
Yes.
And sad to say, it's a wicked, evil world out there. And these scammers will have no qualms about taking and wiping out somebody's savings. And so for a BSP, it is incumbent upon them to regularly educate these folks on the types of phishing, smishing, all of those spear phishing type campaigns that are out to scam these individuals. And you can't just do one blurb in a newsletter or one email. It's a repetition. And at Innovative Systems, we have to take cybersecurity training every single month.
Hmm.
And what I find is really interesting about that is the scams really haven't changed.
Right.
But because we're getting that repetition and we haven't kind of, we saw this, and even for an older person, they saw this 6 months ago, they haven't seen it and they kind of forgot about it. And all of a sudden they see this blurb from their bank saying you need to respond right now or your bank account is going to be shut down, and they forgot about the types of scams that are out there. So really, those are my big takeaways. 65 plus, it's a great crowd, very loyal, and if you take care of them, they'll do you till death do you part, so to speak.
Yes, that's important. It's important to know. I like a lot of what you said there too, and I really do think that for this group, we always talk about right sizing and putting people in the packages that make most sense for them. And I know ARPU is everybody's kind of driving force. I feel like nowadays it's how can we increase ARPU, and what can we do there? And for most scenarios, there are certain shifts you can make where you're getting, a segment of customers into a higher plan, like we mentioned with the free speed trials and kind of upgrade there. But I have heard from customers, and I think many people should really think about this, like you said, offering the discounts and maybe bumping someone down if they are in this demographic and you feel like, okay, they have one device, they're using this for TV and maybe some email online, but do they need a gig? No, probably not. And if we could offer savings in any sort of way, it's more I think it's more beneficial to take maybe the $10 a month hit and to keep them as a customer. So I think there's creative ways we can do that, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I know we always talk about driving ARPU, but sometimes it's making sure we have that customer for life and
Well,
rewarding them.
in theory that makes perfect sense, but it does go back to what is very important, and this goes down to the CSR level, the frontline people. They need to ask the right questions. That 65 plus. Do you have a lot of company? Does your family come over a lot? When they come
Right.
over, what do they do? Are they streaming stuff? Are they, and then just kind of the subtle suggestion. Well, if you want to keep your grandkids happy and you're at our lowest internet plan and they come over a lot, they're not going to be happy. And do you want them to come and visit you?
Right. Good point.
And it's sad to say, sometimes that shouldn't be the reason why they come and visit their grandparents, but let's get real, okay?
Yeah, no, but that's a factor too. And it goes back to the behavior. And it's if you host big family gatherings and you want to put the game on, you need to make sure you have those channels, or you want to make sure that you have your Disney Plus or your Hulu or whatever. So that's a good point too. And it's really conditional, like you said, and it's back to the CSRs asking lots of questions, not assuming. And I think that that's going to help
100%.
everybody right size their plans. So I
Yeah.
know that I don't know. I consider you kind of our resident video expert on video marketing, right? You've been in this industry you've been at Innovative for 20 years and in this industry for quite a while. So I feel like can have seen the trends, have seen the ins and outs. We ask about video in this study. And did anything stick out to you in terms of streaming trends, content trends, anything that was interesting?
Yeah, and I think this is a good wrapping point when we have our conversation here today, Lindsay. We kind of reframed, and video was a big part of our questions set like 11 years ago. We've kind of pared it down just because there's so many things to talk about now with social engagement and those types of things. But last year we reframed video to ask people about live TV viewing, and we're very specific about explaining what live television meant.
Hmm.
And so when we did that, we found that the vast majority of rural households, 84%, still receive or watch some live television. And that could be, cable, that could be YouTube TV, it could be a streaming product. A lot of our video customers at Innovative are now streaming their cable lineups on a bring your own device model on an Apple or Roku or Amazon Fire Stick. So, uh, what we're seeing is people are still watching live TV. It's just that it's being delivered differently. So, 45% are getting it from a local, regional, or national cable company, and 33% are getting it from DirecTV, which is a streaming now product. And that's not satellite. I'm talking about the DirecTV stream, Hulu Live, and YouTube TV. So, there's a still an appetite, let's just say, for live television. It's just the delivery has been blurred, and people don't care how they get it. They still like it.
Yes, agreed. And we heard earlier the satisfaction rate just going from a 7.0 to 7.7 when you bundle TV with your internet is huge. And then adding others on top of that, I think is a huge opportunity for people to consider, bundling and offering different services. Well, thanks so much for, chatting with me about this. I think you and I both, this is one of our favorite things that we get to look at, and looking at the data and diving in deeper so that we can make, really understand what rural Americans want and how our customers, can speak to them. So any final thoughts today?
Yes, one final thought. Everybody stick around for the outro because we're going to put the QR code up so that if you hit that QR code, you can get yourself a full report downloaded and a digital soft copy. So just watch for the QR code at the end of this podcast.
Yes, I know I'm biased because we helped create it, but I think it's it's just visually so beautiful and really easy to kind of, again, hone in on those demographic profiles, like we mentioned, go into the data with what prompts people to leave a review, something, what makes them, disappointed or frustrated with their provider, what social media channels they're on, all of this, we just literally touched the surface of it. We scraped the surface today, but the full report, make sure you download that right now. Well, thanks so much, Scott. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Take care.
That's a wrap for this episode of Broadband Breakdown. Got a problem you need advice on or a story to share? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay connected and keep pushing for progress in rural America.